All right, here we are, the final lesson for our study in the book of Revelation, chapter 2 and chapter 3. As always, thank you for being here and thank you for listening. The prayer is always in anything that we do, in our studies at home, in our studies here at church, is that we get a little more excited, we learn more, we appreciate the Word of God more. The in-depth pieces of this are just amazing. They're intentional. I just love how intentional the Bible is. We talk about this often, that if it's in there for a reason. If Jesus said something, he said it for a reason. And so that's what these are for. These letters were not meant to be just near for the letters that struggle, for the churches that struggled. These letters were meant for them, but also knowing there was going to be a far application. Also, remember this. Jesus isn't done with John yet. There's still 19 more chapters to go. So this Revelation is starting off with the immediate, and he's going to start showing things that, what is it? I think it's a time or two where John faints because he's so overwhelmed at what he sees. He's overwhelmed at the incredible things that he's seeing with these prophetical visions. Can you imagine being given a glimpse into things so far future, and also being able to up close see the glory of God right in front of you? It's crazy. And so it was probably pretty overwhelming for John. So God's not done with John yet. We have more coming in the rest of the book of the Revelation. In the book of Revelation, there's more to come. So keep in your prayers, maybe our next lesson. But this one is going to wrap up tonight. So it's our first lesson on Wednesday night coming to an end, but we'll get through it. Hopefully, again, you've been blessed by it. So it's been pretty clear these 7 churches have had 7 different elements of blessings. There's a group called the Overcomers. We've talked about that at length, especially last week. We talked about what the Overcomer was. We're going to deep dive a little more into it. Not so much the Overcomer mentioned in each church, but more, who is the Overcomer? What are they doing? Who are they? What are they overcoming? Okay, very important to have a good understanding of that. Because if it's a group we want to be into, if it's a group we want to be a part of, we should probably know what it is that we need to do to be there. And so the Bible's chock full of qualifications, things we need to be doing, what is out there to stop us from pursuing this, okay, which there is a lot. So lots of blessings. Love all of these. Beautiful storytelling in these letters to be able to say, here's your issues, here's where you're doing well. At the end of the day, it's the overcomer who's going to receive these wonderful detailed elements. So let's get in this. So who is this overcomer? Well, the answer really is plain. It's he that overcomes. It's the conqueror. It's the one who, think about any struggles that you've had in your life. The beginning of the year, whenever there's tragedy, those are good times to reflect. Oftentimes we reflect during those times where we look back and think, man, the Lord's really brought me through a lot. There's a lot that I've had to go through to get to this place right now. We all have a story. Maybe some of us have had near-death experiences. Maybe some of us have had that second chance. Maybe some of us struggle with elements of our service. Maybe some of us have struggled with health. Maybe some of us had struggled with difficult relationships that maybe have been obstacles in our way of service. Maybe we've lost loved ones who maybe were kind of our rock and now we're struggling because of that. These are all stories. Maybe it's work situations, financial situations. The devil uses so many things to put in our way. I sort of picture, are you in hurdles? I picture it like hurdles, okay? If you're a track star at Colton High School, I'm just spitballing here. If you're a track star extraordinaire at Colton High, say in California, and you are in the hurdles, picture our life like a hurdle, a race with hurdles. Or you're driving down the road and the devil is constantly trying to do those stop strips that the police do for a chase. I love those. I got to get a set of those. He's constantly throwing them out to try to stop us. That's overcoming. Overcoming is pushing through that stuff. So he's correlating blessings and overcomer. Blessings and all the elements that we see here with those who conquered the things that the devil put in front of them. Because it's an assumed element of our service that the devil's going to attack. That's assumed. That isn't, well, maybe he'll leave me alone. He won't. These are New Testament church members who receive these letters. So it's New Testament church members who will receive the blessings of overcoming. He didn't send this to the saved people around the area. He sent them to New Testament churches. So that's who needs to be overcoming, because that's what counts. And so he's saying very clearly, the overcomer is the conqueror, the one who beat the odds, who pushed through, who read even when they were tired, who prayed when they were so down they couldn't feel anything, who came to church in spite of 9 inches of rain, or fatigue, or pain, or whatever. Those are the people who overcome. And so the blessings are for those people. Now, overcoming financial difficulties, the Lord doesn't necessarily, he said he would take care of that. He's talking about overcoming the challenges that the devil throws in our way to get us to stop serving him. Because the devil doesn't care about your money, your family, your friends, only in how he can use those external elements to get you to stop worshiping God. That's the only reason he cares about that. He will use those elements to get you to stop serving God. That's why he attacks those. He attacked Job's family. He attacked Job's wealth. He attacked Job in every way possible to get Job to do one thing: curse God. He took away everything Job had. He took it away. He did it to get him to curse God. And Job overcame. So I think Job's going to be in that group. Job was an overcomer. He did exactly what God asked him to do. And so the imagery changes from letter to letter, but the substance of it remains the same, as we can see when it is gathered into one comprehensive vision of the holy city. Who is the overcomer? To what battle is he summoned? And by what weapons of war is he to win his victory? John introduces this mysterious and numinous term over and over again without an attempt at definition. Why? For it's the purpose of the unveiling to answer these questions. Who are these people and what are they doing? Well, that's what we're going to see. Slowly, the character of the overcomer takes shape as we read each one of these letters. He is one who perseveres. I love that word. Persevere. It's a pushing through when we don't feel like it. It's an endurance, right? Picture running when you don't feel like it. Picture it's pushing through and doing the things necessary, even though we may not be into it. It shows such an agonist, painful thing. And it is. We've talked about this in the book of Matthew. The word used for narrow road is the word we get the word agony from. So it tells you clearly that the word agona is the narrow road. It's the painful, agony, hurtful, beat you up, filled with potholes road, meant to get you off course. And so we see he's the one who perseveres to the end in doing the will of the Messiah, which we see in 2:26, whose victory is equivalent to the victory that Christ had to overcome Talk about an overcomer, right? Christ is the ultimate overcomer who has come through the great ordeal and washed his robe white in the lifeblood of the Lamb. Revelation 7, verse 13. Okay, yeah, I don't think I have it here. Oh, I do. All right, stand by. Don't turn there yet. He has overcome. I forgot which slide this was. He has overcome the accusing Satan by the sacrificial death of Messiah and his own testimony, not counting his life too dear to surrender. So in 2:26, it says, he who overcomes and keeps my works until the end. So what does that mean, the end? Well, John's about to see it, okay? Or death, whichever comes first. Now, John has been long dead. So John's end came when he died. The end, he who overcomes and keeps my works until the end. Right? So what does that mean? Does that mean death? Does that mean his coming? What does that mean? 3:21, to him who overcomes, I will grant to sit with me on my throne, as I also overcame. Right? We're talking about Christ, and sat down with my Father on his throne. So Christ had to be victorious as the example for us to follow. He's not just up there making rules and not expecting. His son went through it. Then one of the elders answered, saying to me, who are these arrayed in white robes, and where did they come from? And I said to him, sir, you know. So he said to me, these are the ones who came out of the great tribulation and washed their robes and made them white in the blood of the Lamb. Tribulation. We're catching a theme with what we're seeing here. These overcomers are not given a free pass. They're overcoming something. There's agony, the narrow road. There's difficulty. There's tribulation. There's challenges. There's potholes. There's hurdles. That's what we're seeing with this overcomer. And in 12:11 it says, and they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. And then he adds, they did not love their life to the death. They did not sacrifice their desire to be an overcomer to spare their own life. So they did not love their lives to the death. They pushed through no matter what happened to them. That's the overcomer. He has overcome the monster and his image and the number of its name. See this in 15:2. The overcomer, in other words, is the victim of persecution whose martyr's death is his victory, just as the cross was the victory of Jesus. He's a member of the congregation in whom Messiah loves through his covenant. Promises to the overcomer do not imply that every member of every congregation must undergo martyrdom, or that only the martyrs will enter the joys of paradise. Okay? So does that mean that all 50 million, as we're going to study on Sundays, they're all going to be there? Not necessarily. It's still up to the righteous judge. Because what was happening, and we'll study this, is church members were volunteering and going off to go get killed because they wanted to show their family what it took. And that's just not that, there's an element there of living your life and overcoming. Okay? So we see this, that we see that there is definitely a blessing for those who come through the great tribulation. We are definitely seeing that. Okay? And so there has to be an element of covenant relationship. He's picking those who were under covenant with God. Okay? So important to understand that. The overcomers are the faithful in the congregation. So unfortunately, again, in the error of what we are seeing today, is that the people who are deemed righteous, to broaden and appeal to more people, they are saying that that is happening at the first faith experience. And shoot, that's not overcoming. Okay? And so that's the challenge that we face in doctrine today, is that first faith is an important first step, but that needs to be followed by baptism. And baptism includes you into these congregations. And now your agona, your narrow road, your difficulty, your challenges, you've alerted the devil. The alarm has gone off. We've got another one. Someone else to go after. That's what we see. So as we study these things, please know that the overcomers, those made up in the bride, are the ones in the Old Testament who were deemed righteous, and those of the congregation as Jesus established his church who were also deemed righteous. Okay? So important to understand that. The overcomers are the faithful to the covenant in their time and in their circumstance. These overcome the devil, no matter the century or issues of the day. We're asked to overcome in the same regard that our 8th century brethren were asked to overcome. The challenges are different. The difficulties are different. They may have been hiding in caves, hiding for their lives. We don't have that, but we have distractions that maybe they didn't have. We have access, easier access to things that might throw our service off. Okay? The idea is to overcome. Overcome whatever the challenges are that the devil has in whatever century it is we're in. At Smyrna, the faithful who are to receive the crown of life are distinguished from those who are to be imprisoned. The unsustained few at Sardis are worthy to walk with Messiah in white robes. The entire congregation at Philadelphia is to be kept safe in the hour of trial. And even in Laodicea, there are those who repent and open the door to knocking Messiah and will sit at a table with him. He's telling the congregation that it's not going to go all bad or all good. There are good in congregations. That the righteous can be deemed from inside a group that may not be following exactly as they should. Okay? So just because there's 2 or 3 that were good in Sardis, you have a few names even in Sardis, he says, that meant that there were some who were not. Some who were struggling with their walk. Don't we see that in churches today? We see that. We see, and this is up to the Lord, but we see some just a little maybe more faithful than others. Maybe we see people struggling a little bit more in their walk. Okay? And so the Lord isn't going to hold that against the entire church. He's looking for the faithful. Remember, churches are made up of individuals. So individuals are the ones who will make up the bride. Okay? Moreover, when the promises to the overcomer are fulfilled in the holy city, all those are allowed to enter whose names are written in the book of life. One thing is obvious. It does not have reference to being saved and receiving eternal life at the point of salvation. This reward of eternal reign with Jesus the Messiah is only and exclusively given to the victorious and faithful follower who becomes a joint heir with Messiah Jesus himself. This is not part of the gift part of first faith. Okay? There is something to overcome. There is service that is so important in our post-salvation, post-baptism life. And that's what he's saying. The eternal reign with Jesus the Messiah is not for everybody. That's why there are 3 different groups. And he later describes this in the rest of the book of Revelation. Remember, it's assumed at this point that they're aware of what they could lose. He didn't need to explain that. He reminded them of it, but he didn't need to explain, okay, so there's a group of faithful, there's those who are going to be outside, and then there's those who are going to be in the lake of fire. Remember, he's talking to church members who really were going to end up only in one of 2 places. Outside of the city, wishing they could go in, being a part of the bride of Christ, or those who are inside ruling and reigning with him. Okay? This honor does not belong to any unfaithful saved or even anyone who received baptism, entered into covenant with Jesus through his New Testament church, but decided that overcoming was not what they wanted in their life. This is always a challenge. Part of overcoming. Baptism is important, but there's service after that. And a lot of people think that either just because they're saved or just because they're baptized, hey, we're in, yeah, we're good, we can do whatever. That's not overcoming. That's not living a righteous, disciplined life that Paul talked about, that Peter talked about. that the apostles talked about, was preached about, that we see here. The overcomer is the one who has put other things aside and has dedicated wholly his life to the service of Christ. Okay? And so, unfortunately, there are going to be saved, baptized church members who struggled with their walk or who didn't do all the things that qualified. Those people are going to be on the outside. Remember, there are people who are doing things in his name that are outside. There are people who just are struggling in their walk. So there's no Wonka golden ticket. There's no easy pass. There's one gift that's free, and that's your get out of hell free card. That's through first faith. That is a gift. The rest requires overcoming. Okay? And so this is not the widespread mass popular message, because generally people like their religion sort of off to the side. This is a dedicated life for Christ. The overcomer is just that, the one who chooses to use their time on this earth to commit and serve Jesus and dedicate themselves to him and to his plan. The ask is so small compared to what he promises to him who overcomes. Okay? Remember, he's asking for very little, and he's promising all of these blessings to the overcomer. We see this as a huge point of reference in the entire Bible of blessing those who serve. We see this in, just something's rolling in, so stand by. I think it's in Deuteronomy. Hold on. I think it's in Deuteronomy. How many times in the Bible do we see that? Where he says to Israel, if you worship me, if you serve me, I will bless you. How many times did he promise them the blessings of covenant relationship with Israel? He did that multiple times. And so, I can't find it. It is in Deuteronomy. But he says many times, if you serve me, I will bless you. And so the overcomer takes that seriously, not only in this life, but in the life to come. What does he say? He says this in the parable of the talents, in which he's doling out investment in life. And he's asking for a return. He's asking for faithfulness and investment back into Christ in our lives. And he says to those who were faithful, he says, well done. Good job. Fantastic work. And then he calls them two adjectives, good and faithful servant. Good, faithful, still a servant, serving Christ, but good and faithful. How do we know that those are good? Because a few verses after this, he's going to use terms like wicked and lazy for those who don't. He calls them wicked and lazy for the ones who don't do this. He says to him, you have been faithful. You have leaned into me in your service. You have done the things I've asked you to. You have overcome the temptation of taking what I've given you and burying it in the way that the one person with the one talent did. Good and faithful servant. You've been faithful over a few things, given you little responsibility. And this is true of God throughout the Bible. All 66 books, from start to end. This is how it goes. God requires very little, and he blesses abundantly. And so he tells this servant, you've been faithful over a few things. I will make you ruler. You'll have that position of rulership with me in my kingdom. I will rule the earth. King of kings, Lord of lords, you'll be with me. You'll be there with me. I'm sharing my inheritance with you. I will make you ruler over many things. Picture those old scales. Remember those old scales that had something on either side, right? He's asking for a little bit, right? Not the ones that are digital now. Like I'm talking about the old school scales. Sister Anna, you know what I'm talking about. The old school scales. The what? They can also be used for justice. That's right. So you put a little bit on this one, and then it's okay, it's tough. I don't know if I can do it. I can do it. He reminds us that he's going to thunk. And it does that. Scales tipped in our favor. He's not asking us to do a ton and he'll sprinkle some blessings on us. That's not at all what this says. That's not at all what chapter 2 and chapter 3 say. He's telling him to get back to what you were doing. And don't forget, I'll bless you with a white robe. I'll bless you with a white stone, a name that only you know. I'll be your God. You'll be my son. He's asking for a little bit right now. Seems like a lot. Ugh, I can't read today. I can't. I don't want to be convicted. I can't be in church today. I can't be in church tonight. It's too much. I can't, even though that witnessing opportunity was so glaringly obvious, I just can't do it. I'm ashamed. I can't pray today. I don't want to pray today. And I don't want to pray tomorrow. And I don't want to pray the next day. And I don't want to do the things that are necessary to be an overcomer. Well, then you don't get that. Like, as we've talked about, it's time to see what we're up against here. We're up against a few things, blessing with many things. That's hopefully the takeaway from this lesson. Oh, my arms are tired. That's the takeaway from this lesson. He requires a little. He's asking for a little. And he's going to inundate us with the blessings for eternity for those who are faithful. The offering is there. He's telling us about it. He's calling his shot. He's saying that it's possible for those who are faithful. But we have to be faithful. And that's what he's looking for. Committed, dedicated, faithful people who have taken the proper steps to get into this position. So then that's it. That's the 7 churches. So we went through chapter 2, chapter 3. How long? A few months maybe? How long was it? Yeah, a few months. Oh, Sister Anna's got it. You can tell she's the clerk. That's awesome. Since December. Okay. This spanned 2 years. All right. Technically. Okay. Revelation 2 and 3. Hopefully, if you missed any of it, go back. Brother Derek's got them on the YouTube channel, on the Facebook page. They're on both. So please feel free to check those out. If you missed any of them, you want to go back and I don't remember Sardis, which I don't know if anyone would say that, but if you did, that's great. Go back and watch. And we will tackle something next week. Haven't decided yet. I have a couple things that I have in mind, but I haven't decided yet. So